Mode change to stabilize. Disarmed. Mode change to loiter. Mode change to stabilize. Warning, low altitude 0. Armed. Warning, low altitude 0. Mode change to loiter.
Ê,
Mode change to low.
Manya.
Hold.
Khoa vào chuyện.
Warning, no data for 10 seconds. Warning, no data for 15 seconds. Warning, no data for 20 seconds. Warning, no data for 25 seconds. Warning, no data for 30 seconds. Warning, no data for 35 seconds. Warning, no data for 40 seconds. Warning, no data for 45 seconds. Warning, no data for 15 seconds. Warning, no data for 55 seconds. Warning, no data for 60 seconds. Warning, no data for 65 seconds. Warning, no data for 70 seconds. Warning, no data for 75 seconds. Warning, no data for 8 seconds. Warning, no data for 85 seconds. Warning, no data for 91 seconds. Warning, no data for 96 seconds. Warning, no data for 101 seconds. Warning, no data for 106 seconds. Warning, no data for 111 seconds. Warning, no data for 116 seconds. Warning, no data for 123 seconds. Warning, no data for 128 seconds. Warning, no data for 133 seconds. Warning, no data for 138 seconds. Warning, no data for 143 seconds. Warning, no data for 148 seconds. Warning, no data for 153 seconds. Warning, no data for 158 seconds. Warning, no data for 163 seconds. Warning, no data for 168 seconds. Warning, no data for 173 seconds. Warning, no data for 178 seconds. Warning, no data for 183 seconds. Warning, no data for 109 seconds. Warning, no data for 195 seconds. Warning, no data for 200 seconds. Warning, no data for 205 seconds. Warning, no data for 210 seconds. Warning, no data for 215 seconds. Warning, no data for 220 seconds. Warning, no data for 225 seconds. Warning, no data for 230 seconds. Warning, no data for 235 seconds. Warning, no data for 240 seconds. Warning, no data for 245 seconds. Warning, no data for 250 seconds. Warning, no data for 257 seconds. Warning, no data for 262 seconds. Warning, no data for 267 seconds. Warning, no data for 272 seconds. Warning, no data for 277 seconds. Warning, no data for 282 seconds. Warning, no data for 287 seconds. Warning, no data for 292 seconds. Warning, no data for 297 seconds. Warning, no data for 302 seconds. Warning, no data for 307 seconds. Warning, no data for 312 seconds. Warning, no data for 317 seconds. Warning, no data for 325 seconds. Warning, no data for 330 seconds. Warning, no data for 335 seconds. Warning, no data for 340 seconds. Warning, no data for 345 seconds. Warning, no data for 350 seconds. Warning, no data for 355 seconds. Warning, no data for 360 seconds. Warning, no data for 365 seconds. Warning, no data for 370 seconds. Warning, no data for 375 seconds. Warning, no data for 308 seconds. Warning, no data for 385 seconds. Warning, no data for 393 seconds. Warning, no data for 398 seconds. Warning, no data for 403 seconds. Warning, no data for 408 seconds. Warning, no data for 413 seconds. Warning, no data for 418 seconds. Warning, no data for 423 seconds. Warning, no data for 428 seconds. Warning, no data for 433 seconds. Warning, no data for 438 seconds. Warning, no data for 443 seconds. Warning, below altitude 2. Warning, below altitude 1. Warning, below altitude 0. Warning, below altitude -1. Mode change to stabilize. Warning, below altitude